Hi, my name is Celeste McCarthy, holistic nutritionist at Protea, and I want to talk a little bit today about food allergies. Have you ever, for example, gone to a holiday party, eaten a full smorgasbord of food, and then driven home that night and felt like your stomach was off? And maybe that carried over into the sleeping, it disrupted your sleep, and the next morning you woke up thinking, what did I eat last night that caused me to feel this way? I'm going to wager a bet that almost all of us has felt this at some point. And sometimes we think we must have an allergy to a food, but we're not quite sure what food it was and how to figure out what it was that caused it. So I want to kind of break down 3 different levels of food allergies. The first one being your peanut allergy, where you need an EpiPen. A colleague I know is allergic to avocados. Throat will close up immediately if he has an avocado. That is what's called an allergy. And people who say they have a gluten allergy, half the time, more than half the time, they have an irritation to gluten, not necessarily celiac disease where your body is fully allergic to it. That's one level. That's the most traumatic level. The next one down is going to be a food intolerance. This is when you have an idea it might be, say, for example, gluten. So your system gets irritated. It might show up in swollen joints, stomach ache, brain fog, headache, and you know that your body is having an intolerance to something, but not to the point where it's going to completely send you to the hospital or need you to go get an EpiPen. But it does disrupt your quality of life in many ways. The third one down, the most nebulous one, I think, is what a food irritation. It's not enough to disrupt your life where you have to go to bed or you have to run to the bathroom or you have to cancel your day, but you just feel, a lot of patients describe it as ick, or you feel like you have a sour stomach or something just feels off, but you keep on eating the food because you're not quite sure what it is. I would say that most of us are in the irritation to intolerant realm of a food allergy. I'm going to use myself as an example. I did an elimination diet because there was something I was eating that was causing breakouts and stomach aches and joint swelling. So I went to the top 5, which are corn, soy, egg, nuts, gluten, and dairy, top 6. I went to everything except for dairy. That was the last one because it broke my heart to even consider eliminating dairy. And what I learned in nutrition school is that what one person's poison is another person's fuel. So I never counsel people to get rid of everything because dairy might very well fuel someone up and give them positive effects in their diet and their health. Whereas dairy for me, as I discovered, did the opposite. So every year, so I eliminated dairy finally, looked at it and realized that I couldn't go away from the fact that when I ate dairy, I had these certain symptoms. So I eliminated it for a couple months, started to make some replacements, and started to make peace with this in my life. And every spring, there's a certain blossom in Arizona that would bloom that would get in the way of me running. I would wake up sneezing and wheezing, itchy eyes, all the common effects of a seasonal allergy. So I couldn't run, I couldn't do certain things. I had to take something every night to help me sleep. So a couple years ago, I was running in the spring, and I remember looking up and seeing beautiful blossoms in the trees and saying, why do I never run this time of year? And then starting to decipher and remember, usually I can't run because I'm wheezing because of seasonal allergies. But what happened is when I eliminated dairy completely for a couple months in my diet, my immune response was not focused on battling the food irritation, which left my immune response to the seasonal allergies wide open. But instead, it's not a scientific way to look at it, but it makes sense for me. Those immune response soldiers were starting to, again, focus on the seasonal allergies because I cleared out the irritation and intolerance in my system for my body's response to dairy. It can be dairy, it could be corn. It doesn't always have to be as dramatic as it was for me, but you can be in the irritation realm where you feel better, your health is better, your quality of life is improved if you're not eating a food that's causing your body to react in a certain negative way. So I like to think of this irritation intolerant zone of foods as something that we can have a little bit of control over. For example, if I'm going to go visit my sister who lives in New York City, I'm going to have a piece of New York pizza, but at least I know right away the effects it's going to have. And sometimes we choose to let those effects be worth it for the experience. But we get to make the choice rather than the foods we're eating decide for us how we're going to feel. So I think it's a really important distinction that clients can see, starting to love food again rather than dreading food. Because what happens if you eat a lot of these irritating foods, you start to get used to having a stomachache, you start to get used to having brain fog, and it becomes your life. But what if it doesn't have to be your life? What if you can pinpoint a food you have an irritation to and choose to reduce or eliminate for most of the time and only have it on a certain occasion, anticipating what's going to happen and still be able to enjoy that food? So I think it can be a script that we can create a new script for ourselves and look at food in a different way once we understand kind of the stair steps of the allergy pathway. That's just an example. The gluten example is a big one too, and eggs for a lot of people. So the only way to really do that is to work with a nutritionist and be patient and realize it's not going to be a change overnight, but looking at these kind of common allergies and irritations and seeing how you can incorporate those changes in your life so the foods that you eat can help you feel better rather than worse. And sometimes we have to decode our sensory responses to food too, our history about a food that makes us feel good. Sometimes that becomes less worth it when we start to feel better when we don't eat that food. Just something to consider, and I'm happy to decode this more with you as an individual coming into the clinic, seeing us in the nutrition department. I hope this was helpful, and have a fantastic day. Thank you.